There's good news for everyone who had been itching for the Reaper to return to the ring. After giving us only 2 fights this year, Robert Whittaker has a fight scheduled with Paulo Costa for UFC 284, and that too in Australia. But where does that leave his rematch with Israel Adesanya? Join us as we talk about Robert Whittaker and Paulo Costa's upcoming match, as well as the deets about Whittaker's trilogy match with Adesanya. First up, Robert is booked for UFC 284 in Australia. It looks like the Aussie is going home for his next fight. He'll be going up against Brazil's very own Paulo Costa at UFC 284. But don't get too excited yet. The fight's a long time away, and it's scheduled for February 11th, 2023 at the RAC Arena in Perth, Australia. The news comes straight from UFC Australia's official Twitter account, making it the first officially confirmed for UFC 284. The two gentlemen are on the opposite end of the spectrum, with Whittaker coming off a dominant unanimous decision win over Marvin Vettori, scored last month at UFC Fight Night 209, which isn't bad for someone returning to the ring after a hiatus. We're of course referring to the one after that nasty loss against Israel Adesanya. With 2 defeats racked up against the Nigerian, Robert stands at 13-2 in his past 15 bouts. As for Costa, he's at 14-2. Interestingly, he also got a defeat against Adesanya, with the other one against Vettori. Paulo did break the streak with his latest bout against Luke Rockhold, so he's got some footing. With that said, the fight could go either way between the Aussie and the Brazilian. Moving on, this isn't his first fight in Australia. Interestingly, this isn't the first time that Robert is fighting in Australia. He's taken the stage in Perth before, and he defeated Sean Spooner back in March 2012, and won the Superfight Australia welterweight title for himself. In fact, Robert made his professional debut here by beating Chris Talwin at XFC 14. However, his most recent bout was with Israel Adesanya at UFC 243. You know, the one where he lost his middleweight championship, the one in 2019. After his disappointing loss, Whittaker managed to redeem himself by defeating the likes of other title contenders, including Kelvin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier, and Darren Till. But all that amounted to nothing, as he lost the title rematch against Adesanya at UFC 271 earlier in February this year, which by the way wasn't in Australia. Still, despite the bad history, the MMA fighter feels like Perth is his backyard and is all pumped up for the fight. There's just something about tasting sweet victory on your home soil. Next up, Whittaker says the fight with Adesanya will definitely happen. With Robert gearing up to fight Costa in February, it almost feels like a rematch with Adesanya is out of the window. Well, think again. In an interview with Fox Sports Australia, the 31-year-old cleared the air once and for all. He said that a trilogy bout with the UFC middleweight king is pretty much guaranteed, with a win over Costa. Robert then went on to explain his reasons for accepting the bout with the Brazilian. Apparently, he wants to beat everyone else in the division before he steps into the ring with the big guy. Whittaker thinks that Costa is as dangerous as anyone he's fought. He could have tried the other way by waiting for next month's title bout winner, which is scheduled between Alex Pereira and Adesanya. But in Robert's words, he doesn't like to wait. He's had 2 fights this year, but he wanted 3. He's beaten out everyone else in the division, and once he defeats Paulo, it's a title shot for the Sydney Sider. Up next, more on why he accepted the bout. That's not the only reason the former middleweight champ is jumping into the ring with Costa. He accepted the Perth card since Whittaker was forced to withdraw from the company's West Australian debut 4 years ago. He was going to headline the UFC 221 title at the time in a bout against American Luke Rockhold, but was forced to sit out thanks to some medical issues, including a serious case of chickenpox. Robert further added that by opting to defeat everyone in the welterweight division before facing Adesanya, he wants everyone to not doubt his worthiness for another title crack. Coming up, what did the MMA fighter have to say about his opponent? When you're stepping into a fight, it's only natural that you do some recon, but Whittaker doesn't seem like that kind of guy. The Sydney Sider doesn't even seem aware of Costa's very colorful Twitter presence, which we're sure you know of pretty well. The Aussie shocked everyone watching his interview when he said he doesn't follow Paulo's accounts. In fact, he doesn't follow the accounts of any UFC middleweights. Looks like the MMA fighter doesn't know the joys of Instagram yet. Robert further went on to explain that he also has to fight them, and he simply didn't want to humanize them like that. He has heard about Costa being a funny fella, but most importantly, he's aware that Paulo's a dangerous guy, super athletic, got some power, and is quite well-rounded. It almost seems like Costa is the better contender here, but Robert has full faith in his abilities. He thinks he can handle him, since he's more powerful than him. He He's also faster, has a better technique, and has a wider range for the fight game. Moving on, here are some of Whittaker's best performances. With big things shaping up for Whittaker in the world of MMA, it's only natural that we take a trip down memory lane and look at some of his best performances. First up at number 5, Brad Tavares and Robert Whittaker. Back in 2015, Robert was in the ring with Brad Tavares at UFC Fight Night, Miocic vs. Hunt. Robert was expecting to break into the top 10 at 185 pounds, and so was Brad. It was anyone's guess as far as the winner was concerned. But 1 minute in, the Reaper showed everyone why betting on Brad was a bad decision for the fight. The fight lasted only 44 seconds. 44 seconds! With a TKO finish right in the first minute, Whittaker had managed to leave everyone impressed. Up next at number 4, Robert Whittaker versus Derek Brunson. Whittaker found himself looking to break into the top 10 at 185 pounds in the middleweight championship back in 2016. Only this time, it was MMA veteran Derek Brunson who was standing between him and his goal. The fight went down at UFC Fight Night 101. Despite the uneven scales, Whittaker was able to survive Brunson's early onslaught. Near the finish, it was the Reaper who dominated the ring, as his opponent ran straight into a head kick and a left hand. Add in a few ground strikes, and we had our winner. The bout was really something, as it bagged the Fight of the Night honor. Whittaker also walked away with the Performance of the Night bonus. At number 3, Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. After his year-long hiatus, following his loss to Israel Adesanya, the Reaper needed to make an epic return to the game, and he did just that with his bout against top contender Jared Cannonier. Even though the fight earned him the title of second best fighter in the middleweight division, Whittaker went up against Kelvin Gastelum in the main event of UFC Vegas 24. Proving himself as the talented fighter he is, Robert managed to win this one, as well as rained hell on his opponent with kicks to his body and legs. At number 2, Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero. If there's one thing that Robert definitely deserves praise for, it's this one, where he had his first shot at UFC Gold with Yoel Romero as his opponent. The first round was a back-and-forth affair between the Cuban powerhouse and the Australian. The second round wasn't any better for Robert, with Romero doing some damage on top. However, the third round is where the tide turned in for Whittaker, as he used his striking to take the upper hand. He managed to fare through the next 2 rounds as well, arguably with some back and forth, but in the end, it was the Aussie who came out on top with a unanimous decision victory. And get this, Robert managed the win with a torn ligament in his knee. Now that's a champ if we ever saw one. At number 1, Robert Whittaker versus Ronaldo Souza. Ranked at number 6, Robert Whittaker was all the rage in UFC's middleweight division back in 2017. Still, when he locked horns with MMA legend Ronaldo Jacare Souza at UFC that year on Fox 24, Whittaker had his critics. With Souza ranked at number 3, the odds were very much in his favor, but guess who rose above everyone's expectations and managed to defeat the multi-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champ? It was our guy Whittaker, of course. Not only did he stuff Souza's takedown attempts, but he managed to systematically pick him apart in the feet. The deciding moment came in the second round, when the Australian landed a perfect head kick to an unsuspecting Souza. With a TKO finish to tie up things, Robert was well on his way into the middleweight division's top 5. Alright, that's a wrap for this video. Are you excited for Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos. Bye now!